This is the story of Sibontar Mudar of Bakkara. The story takes place at North Sumatra, in Indonesia. Once upon a time in the valley of Bakkara lived 6 clans: Sihi, Manulang, Sinambela, Bakkara, Marban, and Simamora. These clans saw themselves as one. Every year on the New Year's Eve they held a drumming festival called the Mula Tahun Festival, with each clan taking turns to host it. If it was a particular clan's turn, they were responsible for supplying everything required for the festival, including the drums, buffalo, rice, and food. Thus, each clan member was bound by cooperation and contributions. The purpose of the festival is to pray to God and ask for fertility and prosperity in the coming year. While the other 5 clans had hosted the festival, the Simamora clan had yet to get their turn. As the next festival approached, the elders from the other 5 clans informed the Simamora clan that this time it will be their turn. The Simamora were disheartened because the cost for a festival is very high, and due to the small size of their family, that means each family member must bear a very big contribution. They must use all of their savings for the festival, and that means they will have nothing for the whole year. To avoid breaking their agreement with the other clans and risk the anger of other clans, Sungguh Marpasang Debataraja, the clan head, consulted his children about how to gather the funds needed for the festival. Finally, they decided to move away at the following night to avoid the other clan's anger. The following night, when everyone is already asleep, they brought their belongings and left the valley. When they reached the top of the valley, they were surprised to see someone standing in front of them. They thought it is one of the people from the other clans. They tried to come up with a reason to explain why they are moving away in the middle of the night. However, after they got closer, they realized that it is not a human, as the figure, although looking like human, but the feet is not on the ground, it is flying, it is a genie. The genie know the Simamora are afraid of him. So the genie greets the Simamora and introduces himself, and that he meant no harm to them. His name is Guru Sodung Dangon. The genies ask why they are traveling in the middle of the night. Knowing they are speaking to a powerful genie, Sungguh Marpasang does not dare to lie. He explains honestly. The genie reassured them of their future prosperity, telling them to return home, and that everything they needed for the festival is already provided. The Simamora believed the genie and returned home. Indeed, everything was prepared, surprising the whole village in the next day. The other clans are surprised that the Simamora has gathered all the supplies for the festival in a very short time. The Mula Tahun festival went splendidly. Everyone has a great time without anything lacking. A while has passed since the New Year festival. Sungguh Marpasang is sitting in front of his house. He sees that his house is old and that he needs to rebuild his house, but he knows that it will need a lot of fund. Suddenly, Guru Sodung Dangon, the genie, show up. The genie asks Sungguh Marpasang what is troubling him. Once again, knowing that he is speaking to a powerful genie, Sungguh Marpasang dare not to lie. He tells the genie what is on his mind. The genie told him to take his family to the forest, and everything they needed to build a new house is already provided there. The next day, Sungguh Marpasang take his family to the forest and find everything as the genie said. But there are a lot of things to carry, and they are confused on how to carry all those items back to their house. The genie suddenly shows up again and tells them to gather everything and then walk 7 steps towards the direction of their house. They do everything as the genie said, and after walking 7 steps, they magically arrived in front of their house. Now, all they need to do is to start building their new house. Months after the Simamora completed their new house, the genie suddenly show up again in front of their house. The genie greets Sungu Marpasang. Sungu Marpasang is very happy to see the genie because Sungu Marpasang is very grateful to him. Sungu Marpasang invited the genie to sit with him. This time, Sungu Marpasang asked the genie if there is anything that he could do for the genie as a sign of gratitude. The genie politely replies that, if possible, he would like to marry someone from the Simamora family. Sungu Marpasang said that his youngest daughter, Sibontar Mudar, is at the right age to marry. Sungu Marpasang asked for some time to speak with his family to ask for their approval. Sibontar Mudar is famous in the valley of Bakkara for her character and beauty. Her name means white blood. She is kind, graceful, and polite. Her hair color is as dark as the night sky. Her skin is as white as cotton. With the combination of her character and beauty, everyone seems to be fond of her. Sungu Marpasang gathered his family to talk about the request from the genie and that he proposed to marry Sibontar Mudar with the genie. One of his sons disapproved, saying he is worried for his sister's well-being if she is to be married with a genie, because the genie is not a human. Sungu Marpasang insisted to marry her daughter to the genie, as he feels his family should be very grateful towards the genie after the genie helped them with all their problems. Everyone eventually agrees to marry Sibontar Mudar with the genie. A week later, the genie returns and politely asks their decision. Sungu Marpasang deliver the news and that the Simamora are waiting for the genie to come together with his parents to formally discuss about the marriage celebration. The genie is delighted to hear the news. The genie asks for some time to prepare and that he will return with to marry Sibontar Mudar. The Simamora waited and waited, but the genie never shows up again. A year has passed since the genie last showed up. The Simamora thought the genie has forgot about them and their arrangement. A neighboring kingdom is holding a dance festival in the area near the valley of Bakkara, as their prince is looking for a wife. The prince's name is Tuanku Barus III. The dance festival is held for 7 days and nights. The prince speaks and dances with many beautiful ladies, but none attract his heart. On the 7th day, the prince announced that he is yet to find someone suitable to his heart. Therefore, he will pray to the God Almighty to help him decide. After praying, the prince decided that he will make a silk kite and fly it. If the silk kite fell on a lady, then the lady shall be his bride. The prince carries out his decision. He makes a silk kite and fly it. He told his men to carry gifts and follow the kite. The gifts will be given to the family of the lady as a token of proposal. The silk kite flies up and down, but every time it nearly lands or touches someone, the wind blows it up again. In the end, the silk kite fell into the valley of Bakkara. The prince and his men follow the kite down the valley, but they lost sight of the kite. During the search, the prince decided to sit near a tree, as he is a bit tired. A young lady walks by carrying a bucket of water. It is Sibontar Mudar. The prince politely called the young lady and asked for some water. Sibontar Mudar also treated the prince politely and her attitude impressed the prince. The prince continues chatting with Sibontar Mudar and tried to ask her whether she see a silk kite. Sibontar Mudar is surprised by the question, since a kite did fell on her while she was taking the water in the river. The silk kite then fell into the river and got wet. Sibontar Mudar picked it up and put it on the side of the river. She leads the prince towards the kite. The prince is delighted to find Sibontar Mudar is the one to find the kite. The prince tells her that the kite represents the guidance from the God Almighty in his search for a wife. The prince proceeds with asking Sibontar Mudar to be his wife. Seeing the prince as gentle, polite, and religious person, Sibontar Mudar is happy to receive the proposal, but she remembers her family arrangement with the genie. She asks the prince to talk to her family about the proposal. The prince and his men follow Sibontar Mudar to her home. At her home, the prince and his men are welcomed by her father, Sungu Marpasang. Sungu Marpasang listened to the prince's proposal and explains that Sibontar Mudar is already promised to the genie, though the genie has since never reappeared. The prince understands the situation and said that his meeting with Sibontar Mudar is an answer from God Almighty for his prayer. Therefore, he believed that both Sibontar Mudar and him are destined to be together, so he will continue with his proposal and accept whatever that may occur in the future if the genie reappears. The prince marries Sibontar Mudar in the valley of Bakkara. The celebration is beautiful, especially Sibontar Mudar, who looks elegant as the bride. All the families from the 6 clans gathered to celebrate. After the celebration, the prince asks Sibontar Mudar to come with him back to his kingdom. The journey back is about 2 days of horse ride. They travel happily until they are about to cross a bridge on the Sibundown River. The genie appears at the middle of the bridge. The genie angrily shouted to the prince and Sibontar Mudar, asking the prince to leave Sibontar Mudar. Believing the God Almighty will protect them, the prince answered that it is the genie's own fault that he never appears to marry Sibontar Mudar when he has the chance, and that now Sibontar Mudar is destined to be with the prince as arranged by the God Almighty. The prince continues with asking the genie to leave them, as a powerful being such as the genie should keep his reputation. The genie responded angrily by casting a spell towards the prince, but nothing happened to the prince. The genie tries again and again, but the results are the same. No spells can reach the prince or Sibontar Mudar. Finally, the genie said, "There is no winner in this contest between the genie and the prince, and so the situation is a tie. The genie will not let go of Sibontar Mudar. Therefore he offers to magically divide Sibontar Mudar into 2 parts. Each of the genie and the prince will take half of Sibontar Mudar. Knowing he is unable to defeat the genie or to chase the genie away, the prince reluctantly accepts the term. The genie allows the prince to choose between taking home Sibontar Mudar's head or body. In sadness, the prince answered, "If God allows, then I choose to bring her head home." The genie magically divides Sibontar Mudar's head and body apart, and then take her body away. The prince in tears picked Sibontar Mudar's head and wrapped it with a cloth, and continued his journey. After a while, the prince is shocked to hear a voice coming from the cloth. It is Sibontar Mudar's voice. He opens the cloth and finds Sibontar Mudar gently smiles at him and assure him that everything will be okay if the prince keep his faith to God. Sibontar Mudar said an owl has told her at the night before that this confrontation with the genie will happen. God will arrange everything back to normal if the prince can find Sibontar Mudar's body and put the body together with her head in a box. Sibontar Mudar continue the explanation that after the confrontation, the genie does not want a wife without a head, and so he will throw her body into the river. The prince immediately orders his men to search for Sibontar Mudar's body. After a few days, a report came to the prince's ear about a body without head that is found by the river. To add to his delight, the report mentioned the body is magical, as it can move by itself without a head. The prince rushed to the location to pick up Sibontar Mudar's body himself, as he does not anyone else to touch her body. When he reached the location, the prince gently held her hands and guided her body inside a box, and put Sibontar Mudar's head inside it too. The prince keeps the box at the roof of his home. After 7 days and 7 nights, he opens the box and Sibontar Mudar wakes up with her head and body back in normal condition and smile to him. Prince Tuanku Barros III and Sibontar Mudar celebrates their reunion by holding a 3 days of drum festival with their family and the people, and they live happily ever after. The end.